Very excited now for a fascinating discussion, I'm sure, with our guest, Ramesh Srinivasan, on his new book, Beyond the Valley.
What's up, John? How you doing,
I'm
man?
glad to have
Nice
you in
see
studio.
man.
We've
Nice
done the main show before. You're an accomplished author, but we were just talking before this block, and you said this is the biggest book. Tell people about what can they expect out of Beyond the Valley.
Yeah, I mean, technology is increasingly defining our lives, right? I mean, every experience we have is digitally mediated in some manner or another.
Yeah.
Obviously politics, right? Obviously economically, right? But even when we decide to navigate with our car, or when we receive insurance, or when we interact with businesses, everything is digitally mediated. And in fact, even when we just sort of live our lives in a normal sense, without actively using technology, we are constantly leaving digital footprints. So we are being tracked, and data is being collected about us 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
So that's the larger issue that's at play. The concern around it, as is commonly understood here on the Young Turks, is a few private corporations interested by definition in only their self-interest, their expanded valuation, their expanded profitability, have taken power over that reality.
Yeah.
So what that means is that disruption, or that innovation, is self-serving, and it's zero sum. And as a result, we see massive threats to vulnerable people, to indigenous people, to working class people, to all of us as sort of citizens who believe in a progressive democracy, to women in certain cases, to workers of the future. So all of this is at stake. So the book is calling out what happens with the internet, and
this is a global scope in the book.
Global
it's not just about the United States.
That's right.
Although that's where my knowledge ends, is on the borders. No, I'm kidding. But so you sort of made this clear, but just to be clear for people who might not really have thought about, as you say, the digital like fingerprints and footprints that they're leaving behind. Almost all of these corporations that control all the data, Google and Facebook, they have made from the beginning, in many cases, huge promises that they respect your rights, that they're going to protect your digital data. At this point, it seems pretty clear that they had no interest in that, or at the very least, they couldn't sustain it, right?
Yeah, I mean, making statements like we protect your data, or have you really analyzed it in the practices of these companies, are basically platitudes, right? I mean, we'll protect your data, but we're gonna use your data to behaviorally manipulate you if it suits our business model and our advertisers, who could be shady parties like the Russian government or Cambridge Analytica, or like super sketchy right-wing conspiracy like businesses like the Mercers ran and Steve Bannon has been a professional in. So it's really like sell to the highest bidder in a sense, and it's not just these companies. It's also like data brokers, right? Like I could purchase all of your credit card records, John. I could have. I could do that. I could do that right away, and that's what Cambridge Analytica did. So the issue is this kind of.
You shouldn't, by the way.
I won't.
Totally
I won't
private.
Plan on doing
I lend my credit card to a lot of people, by the way, so some of that's not mine.
Okay, there you
go. Anyway,
good comeback.
So no, that's a great point. I didn't even know that, and I'm sure most people don't. You listed a lot of different groups that are either in effect compromised or at least hypothetically compromised. What are some examples of the way that this access that these corporations have has been used against different groups?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's on the one hand, this is obviously deeply troubling when it comes to concerns around individual privacy, which is something we can get a lot of people around, including libertarians who, the book is written as a progressive book, not necessarily a libertarian book. However, at scale, what happens is really disastrous. I'll give you several examples. Every facial recognition system across the board, whether they're American facial recognition systems or Chinese facial recognition systems, across the board misidentify women like Michelle Obama, Oprah, Serena Williams. They misidentify them as men. When you used to search on Google for gorillas image recognition, you get pictures of black people. So what's happening here is that the people who are building these technologies are building them based on their biases, not because they're intentionally racist, but they have a certain way of sorting out and coding information. These systems are learning from the data sets in our world, generally learning from white male kinds of ways of looking at the world, somewhat Asian male as well, and they're reinforcing these biases. They're discriminatory. So if you see that same logic implement itself in courtroom systems that are using AI, kind of like Minority Report type stuff, or predictive policing systems, you can see how people who have not even committed felonies in the past are judged as at higher risk and are given higher sentences based on predictions that are based upon inequality. Another example, Amazon has been selling facial recognition software to ICE. So don't look past the hype of the whole soap opera spat of Bezos and Trump. That's all BS. Actually look at the business.
Money,
it's all the business models are deep, right? And they're selling that technology to ICE. ICE is going into neighborhoods, I would say illegally, rounding up people and misidentifying people who are documented as undocumented, right? So even if you believed in ICE,
really fast to tie it together, its rate of misidentification is far higher for certain demographic groups and racial groups than for others. It's better at telling one white person from another than it is, I'm not speaking specifically with the Amazon ones, but I've done stories recently about these police systems that think that black people look alike because it's been programmed without the ability to really tell them apart.
That's right.
So basically everything you're saying here in one way or another undercuts many of the stories that we talk about on a daily basis on the show.
Precisely, it's the asymmetries of our world as it is, a deeply unequal country and world that you call out better than anyone in the Young Turks, embedding themselves into technologies that people think of as convenient, efficient, consumer-facing, normal, whatever. So the hood behind it, the engine that is actually reinforcing and amplifying these inequalities is the technological asymmetries themselves. And to give you another killer example, think about the gig economy. Think about automation, right? So many people's jobs are gonna be taken away, between 35 and 50% based on where you look, right? The gig economy we're seeing is giving people the inability to unionize, that we're trying to change that, non-living wages, non-benefits, increasing these inequalities. These are ways of using technology to make work and workers more precarious, right? And so all this automation, these jobs are gonna be taken away for working and middle class people by technologies that are owned and introduced by private corporations. Just go into like an Amazon fulfillment center. It's a hard thing to do.
I actually would like to.
It's like Robotville, right? And the people that are there have wristbands on their and they're not like happy Fitbits, which was bought by Google. The wristbands that are tracking their productivity. So we are building automated systems in the image of the powerful, in the image of the elite, in the image of the most heinous forms of top-down macro capitalism. So that's why we need to develop justice and equity. And I give examples of how that could look like from all over the world, including in our country. And I've been pushing out all these op-eds, New York Times I'm working on right now. Did a piece for Wired, did a piece for the Washington Post. I'm just trying to push this message out so we can ensure and restore balance. And so that's why I support, Senator Sanders, as you know, and because he's interested in restoring balance, in supporting workers, and supporting like people's interests. And I want to fight for technology that supports those aims as well.
I wish that we had more time. Really fast, though, I just want to make clear for people that, as you alluded to right there, this is both diagnosing the problem in many aspects, but also providing potential solutions.
That's right.
And you're saying it's like some of this seems super technical, but it's written for regular people to digest and understand.
Anybody and everybody, it's full of stories. And a lot of the solutions I provide are ones where workers have greater equity over digital organizations, that people are potentially paid and compensated based on their data, though I have some issues with that, where every sort of system that is influencing the public is designed and audited by the public, where there's total disclosure from tech companies about what they know about us, and that we own our data. We get to take our data away from them if we choose to. So this is an inversion of power that can still achieve the incredible achievements of the internet, efficiency oriented, but not at the cost of all the rest of us.
And definitely sounds like the sooner we get to that, the better.
That's my aim, man. That's my goal.
Awesome. Well, the book is Beyond the Valley. Ramesh, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it was great, John. Thank you for having me.
It was a lot of fun. I wish we had more time. Thank you for watching this clip from The Damage Report. For more content from the show and access to TYT Network members-only exclusives, go to tyt.com/Brooke. Wait, no, it's tyt.com/John. Go to tyt.com/John to sign up.